when the sun's on the Tropic of Capricorn, this is all northern hemisphere drawings. When the sun's at the Tropic of Capricorn, the southern part is all lit up. The southern part, half of the degree, is lit up, and the northern part, the top part in the Arctic, where the Arctic Circle would be, that's dark because the sun's not rising there. So this is phenomena happening within each degree that fluctuates daily, according to how far north or south the sun has gone, and each planet for that matter. So here's a drawing with the two that we started with this one. This is a drawing with a degree on the equator and a degree in the ecliptic. So if your ascendant's in 1 degree Aries, for example, you have this first degree of your ascendant is the perpendicular degree, but it's measured as 1 degree wherever it is in the ecliptic, and it's measuring degree going to the side. So they're not, how would you say this? In geometry, you can have an XY coordinates. You measure things on XY coordinates, and then you can shift them. You have coordinates that are X1 and Y1. They may call them differently, and you can translate from one to the other. But what you don't do is what astrology's done. You have X on one level and Y1 on the other level. It's mixing the two coordinate systems and putting the two circles on together. Really, the houses are one circle, the signs are another circle. They have different types of information. The signs are on the house cups and on the angles, and they're read into it. It's an association, but there's a lot of interesting things that can happen from this. If the degree gets further away from the equator, it's going along further along. Here, you'll start to see, here's the equator degree, here's the ecliptic degree. You start to see they really shift to each other. So there's only a small little triangle of space that the 2 degrees overlap. And lots of places where planets, things could be in 1 degree and not in the other degree. Okay, so here we see just some more, the same drawing, 2 degrees, but it's showing the circle of the Earth with the Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, and the path of the ecliptic. It shows the ecliptic as being the path of the sun. It goes as far up one way, 23 degrees 27, 23 degrees 27 south, north or south. Okay, so that's the movement of the sun as we're seeing it from Earth, or the path of the sun. And that line is the ecliptic is where the zodiac is. The equator is where the houses are, where the Earth turns. But when you're thinking of where stars are, if you're measuring from the equator, totally the stars are different places than where the degrees in the ecliptic are. This is kind of a graph that puts, it's as if it's each 1 degree, but I just made a bunch of them to make it, to go across the year as the sun goes north to the summer solstice, winter solstice in southern hemisphere, or down to the Tropic of Capricorn for the winter solstice in North America, in the northern hemisphere, summer solstice in the southern, and back to the equator. So as it does that, you can see how the degrees get darkness on one side, light on the other, dark on the other, on the north side, light on the other side. So there's, aside from just the degree of moving around the circle, there's things happening that's affecting the light and the darkness within any degree. And there's stars adding to that light and darkness that are there. And there's mass and matter in those degrees. Astrology hasn't really added these. Maybe astronomy is getting this position, getting the weight, getting the light, getting the amount of light, but we haven't really translated this to measuring the actual effects of the degree and then trying to see how it relates personally. This goes closer to DNA research, or how we're connected in real terms. It also lets us use the astronomy advances and really go deeper into the meanings of the degrees. Hey, when we're first learning astrology, you learn the planets and the signs, the planets and the houses, the aspects, how to put the natal chart together, the basic character factors. Then you see the steps to interpret that, the points in the various categories. And then we look at the timings going around that by degree, moving around the ecliptic and watching as it goes around our chart. And we learned that. That's the foundation. Those first 7 level classes are the foundations that you need before anything else can make any sense. If you started looking at each degree to begin with, you'd lose your bearings. You'd be lost in too much information. So now you have the basics together. Now we're looking at other things, and these things can become much more relevant as we get to the progressions or get to more advanced other techniques or other levels of application. Okay. So here's a picture of a degree. Here's the Earth in the center. There's the South Pole, North Pole. There's the equator. And it's like a slice of an orange, or a slice of by 1 degree, like a whole slice. Okay, and it goes out, it stretches out beyond the Earth, it goes out to the heavens, and there's certain stars at various parts of the sky. And some of them are within that 1 degree. So this is the substantial degrees. It's not just a symbolic thing, not just a point around a circle. There's a texture to every degree. That texture is part of the aliveness of the universe, part of the uniqueness around your nature. How much you make of it, how sensitive you are to it, how oblivious you are to it, that's another story, but it's there. Okay. I like this drawing because it kind of makes it look, it's like a paddle, but each part of the paddle is a different amount of latitude, or this would be declination, north or south. Planets can move along in north or south, and it collects information. It means something different when planets, it's in that degree, but it can be up, it could be down, it could be way down, it could be way up, it could be at the equator, and all those things make a degree, make a planet's position have different meanings. People would find when they're doing the stock market research, but a planet moving around while it's back at the same place, the same thing's going to happen. It's not the same thing because the planets are different heights, different latitudes and declinations. They're up or down differently, and it's not always have the same energy. Even the same aspect returning the same position, it's not exactly the same. And there's different effects that happen. Okay. What else we got? Okay. So this is a bigger drawing of the same thing, where you have the 0 degrees on this showed the red is the ecliptic, the lines of the ecliptic, which are drawn out, and the blue are lines of the equator, so it's like within the circle of the Earth. So you see the circle of the Earth, tropic Cancer, and you see the lines of the ecliptic going on, being measured. So this is our grading scale. We're seeing the 2 circles. We're putting the houses on top of the chart. We're seeing the 2 circles, and really they're not lying flat to each other. I had to make these drawings because I couldn't find them out. Well, the axis, the ecliptic, the equator, there was a lot of things, but not with the degrees. So when we look at the houses, when we look at the house cusps, the Earth turns 24 hours in a day. It rotates. And as it rotates, if you divide it in 12 sections, 12 equal sections, you get 12 2-hour periods. And that's what the basis of the houses are on the equator. And they would be even, they'd be equal. Just measuring from the equator, they're all equal, all the way up to the poles. But because we're measuring, we put the signs of the zodiac on there. The signs of the zodiac are at an angle. They're on an angle to it. And they're not exactly, it becomes distorted. So there's different amounts of degrees of the zodiac in each of these 12 degree sections. So if you did an equal house chart, you're just working with the houses, but the houses are equal, but actually there's no such thing as equal houses, because the signs that are zodiac, they would have different amounts of the orbit and of the degrees going through the houses. So there wouldn't be, the degrees on the house cusps are not the measurement of what makes the houses 2 hours each. They're a distortion. They're measuring it on the side, how it works. So, okay, yeah, just coming back. So we use the Placidian system, which is measuring these 2 hours, but we're measuring it in terms of the zodiac when it crosses the zodiac at its own weird angle. But each house cusp is where the second house cusp would be the ascendant 2 hours later. The third house cusp will be the ascendant 4 hours later. The IC will be the ascendant 6 hours later. And each one would be the ascendant 2 hours later. That's the uniqueness of the Placidian houses.